female voting ratio is very low in some regions of Pakistan. It's male dominated. You have to properly seek permission from the men of the house. That kind of gender disparity does exist and is quite visible. Even in the most developed province of Punjab, they could see potential in the people, especially the female. One of the major reasons for this reservation from the male community was security of the female. Anybody who disagrees with that, then they are termed as an outsider. It was one of the worst floods in the history of the country. Unfortunately, one of the most impacted regions was this Mirpur Khās region. They had to re-establish themselves. All of this does have an impact on how sustainable these initiatives are.
Can you give me a little bit of background into the Sindh region, what it's known for, what its economy looks like, setting up the context for the research paper that you conducted?
Absolutely, Max. So Sindh is basically one of the provinces of Pakistan, and it is the second largest province in terms of population. Usually there are, it's always said that Punjab, being the largest province in Pakistan, economically holds a lot of importance for the country, and a lot of economic development has taken place in that particular part of the country. However, when we look at the industrialization, Sindh is far ahead, because Sindh basically comprises the largest city of Pakistan, which is Karachi. However, the unique element of Sindh is that the population distribution is almost 50-50%. Like 50% of the people live in the urban areas, whereas 50%, or even slightly more than that, they live in the rural areas. So despite being the industrial hub for the country, there are certain elements and there are certain aspects within Sindh which kind of restrict its true potential. It has the infrastructure, it has the the facilities available in some of the larger cities of that province. However, a considerably large amount of population lives, kind of in a very rural kind of a setup. The good part about it is that the Sindh is mainly known for the mighty Indus River. So that Indus River flows through the heart of that province, and that basically provides livelihood to lots of people. They do their farming, they do their various kind of activities around the banks of the the Indus River, and that's how things progress. One of the other elements within Sindh is that it is one of the I would say only provinces in Pakistan which has a fair distribution of ethnic minorities. Like there is a Hindu population, there are other sects and different religious minorities living in the Sindh region, and with harmony. There are not many issues around different kind of ethnicities. So that is one of the unique elements of Sindh, that Muslims, Hindus, and some other ethnic minorities live together in a peaceful manner in that part of the country. Obviously, in terms of its produce, in terms of the agriculture products, the dates, the mangoes, and all those kind of things are known worldwide around that particular region.
Is that because, in terms of its multicultural nature, dispersion of ethnic minorities and such, is that just because it has a lot more of the urbanization potential? I mean, you tell me if this is true or not, compared to some of the other regions in Pakistan. Obviously, Karachi, massive city. It obviously forms a massive component of that, I'd imagine. Port city as well, perhaps that also contributes to this as well?
Partially due to that, and partially because this was one of the regions which was kind of united at the time of the partition of India and Pakistan. And when, Bangladesh was part of East Pakistan as well, lots of people moved from that particular region to the Sindh region. And at that point in time, as you rightly pointed out, Karachi was the main hub of the newly created Pakistan. It was not until the 1960s that we had our capital city of Islamabad. So from 1947 onwards, Karachi was the capital. And that was one of the reasons that that migration took place and lots of people settled over settled here in this region, and some people who opted not to move to the Indian part then also gradually established themselves over here. So this is again, as I said, one of the only provinces in Pakistan where then we have not only religious minorities but also different ethnicities, different nationalities. There is a proper space where people from Bangladesh who moved at that point in time are settled and live in different parts of Karachi. So yes, there were multiple reasons for for this kind of a unique distribution, demographic distribution of this particular province.
Got you. And how does its wealth compare to, or income, or general livelihoods compared to some of the other regions? You mentioned Punjab there being sort of the bigger region. Is Sindh one of the more wealthy regions? Is it quite comparable to the other regions?
Uh, it is to be honest, Punjab is the most developed province in the country. It has more opportunities. It has more, apart from the farming and all those things which are very common in almost all of the provinces of Pakistan. Punjab has different kind of sectors and organizations setting up their headquarters in Lahore and different areas, and partially because the capital city of Pakistan, although it's not part of Punjab, but it lies very close to the to Punjab. So basically, most of the uh, you know economic activity goes on in that particular region, and of course, it has a lot of population which generates economic activity, which is then translated into the development side as well. Sindh, I would say at at the second rank. I would say at the second place within Pakistan. And as I said, it's mainly because of the distribution. Some of the cities like Karachi and Hyderabad generate a lot of wealth, and people over there have very high standards of living, and it is considered one of the most developed cities of the country. However, then just a few kilometers out of or a few miles out of Karachi and Hyderabad, then you begin to see a lot of disparity. You begin to see a lot of that, I'm very conscious of using the term class differences. You see them very evidently within the same province. And it becomes really strange and surprising that, we were just witnessing something dramatic in Karachi, and now we are just a few miles away from there, and then we see poverty, then we see people struggling to meet their livelihoods, people struggling to just earn something, for their families. So that disparity is also part and parcel of the Sindh province. Yes, it provides lots of opportunities. Um, it is famously known in Pakistan as the only city that accepts people from all over the country and provides them with different ways of earning and earning their livelihoods. But then these kind of challenges are also coexisting, because then what happens is that the distribution of I would say wealth, or distribution of the development funds, is something of a challenge in this particular province. So you see some developed cities, but then you see a large population living in underdeveloped rural areas and small cities and
Got
towns.
you. Right. So, talk to me about the Sujaan Initiative project. I'm not quite sure how you how you would classify it, but talk to me about this program initiative. It's what's its goals, its what's it trying to achieve, and its purpose.
Okay. So Jan, again, is one of the initiatives that is, again, it's one of the many initiatives that are being taken in the country at the moment, where the ultimate aim is poverty elevation. As I just highlighted in the as a response to the previous question, one of the biggest challenge for Pakistan at the moment is the disparity, the socio-economic disadvantage that exists within communities, within areas, within regions. So there are several initiatives that are being taken to come up with ways where we can support people to start coming out of that phases of their lives and start to earn something for themselves. Of course, there are welfare schemes which the government have started, but the idea behind Sujan was that is it possible for us to build the capacity of the people within a particular region so that they can come up with their ideas to earn something, to start their own businesses. Again, as I said, there are lots of resources which are available in the Sindh region. There are lots of things which people can do. They have some kind of initial knowledge about all those things. It was just that some kind of hand holding, I would say, where we can give them a direction. We can try to provide some sort of uh, guidance or something like that, where they can come out of that cycle of poverty, I would say, because it's generations after generations people are living in same conditions in some of the regions, of course. And they try something, but they don't get the necessary support. So Sujan, the idea behind Sujan was that can we provide them with a platform where they can get the guidance, where we can bring in some experts from different fields, give them some kind of guidance, give them some kind of training, uh, connect them with some people who can then help them establish their businesses. uh, and the ultimate aim was that can we do something for this region, can we do something to reduce these disparities which exist within the communities.
Got you. And is this initiative specifically within the Sindh region? Does it also happen to operate in other regions? And is there any specific demographics that it's trying to target in it, or is it just a general populace kind of initiative?
So Sujan is very specific to the Sindh region, mainly because the organization that had taken this initiative and the people who are responsible for this initiative belong from that particular region. So obviously, naturally, they were more concerned about that particular area within the country. And then, of course, as I said, there are other organizations. There are very large organizations, if I may name. There is a Kash Foundation. There is Al Khidmat Foundation, lots of other organizations working in different parts of Pakistan. But this organization was specifically targeting Sindh region, and within Sindh, then we have a specific region called Mirpur Khās. So this is one of the most deprived areas of Sindh, where obviously the majority of the population live in rural areas. They are economically disadvantaged, and the people who work in that organization who took that initiative, they were belong to that those areas. So it was naturally closer to them, and it was naturally closer to their hearts, to be honest, to be able to do something for that region. And again, as I said, there was when I interviewed these people, uh, one of the responses that I got was that they could see potential in the people, especially the female population within those regions. They could see them doing something in their houses, building something, developing something, trying to establish a business, not necessarily a formal business, but something to do with.
Some little enterprise or something, yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, the ultimate aim was that can we as females do something for the men of our house, to be honest? Can we support our fathers? Can we support our brothers? The ultimate aim was that. So when these people from the Sujan organization, they saw those kind of people approaching them, that could you connect us with some people in the larger cities? Could you connect us with establish some networks where we might be able to sell our products to people outside this area? So that is where this idea came from. That is where that okay, if we can do this at a formal level, where we bring some people who can train them, who can guide them, then we might be able to pull them out from a certain level of poverty and try to bring some prosperity in that particular region.
Got you. Got you. And so, what motivates you to look at this specific area or specific initiative within Pakistan? I imagine if there were potentially other organizations you could have looked at, that there was, potentially even other countries that you looked at. Why this initiative in this country specifically?
So that's an excellent question, Max. And there are two parts of it, to be honest. When I came to the UK and after doing my PhD, I started to work on a research project with one of the universities where we were looking at the struggles and challenges of female entrepreneurs from Ghana. What we were trying to do was we were trying to establish some kind of communities of practice between UK entrepreneurs and female entrepreneurs in Ghana, specifically from the marginal communities, and see if they can share their experiences with each other. That is when I thought of, because I am from Pakistan, so that is when I thought that similar kind of issues exist in Pakistan as well. I've seen lots of people in my social circle who are trying to earn something for themselves, move away from those traditional jobs, but they face similar kind of challenges. We have infrastructure related challenges, we have economic challenges, we have demographic related challenges, we have technological challenges. So some similarity existed between what I was already working on in Ghana and then what is happening in my own country. So that is when I tried to approach different organizations through some common friends, through some common fellow researchers. And that is when I got in contact with the NGO, which is basically looking after the Sujaan Initiative. And they shared those details with me that, this is something that we are doing. And another specific reason was that I come from a city called Multan in Pakistan, which is in South Punjab, but it is just near the border of Punjab and Sindh. So I know these areas. I know where what's happening in Sindh. I know what happens in the rural areas and what kind of demographics exist. So it was very fascinating for me that a we are trying to approach entrepreneurs, socially economically disadvantaged entrepreneurs, and b we are trying to target female entrepreneurs in a society which is male dominated, to be honest, where females do not get permission to go out of the house that openly. So my first interest in this project was that how are you able to convince females to come out, do their business, meet people, interact with the trainers, etc. How is all of that happening? Because being familiar with the region, that was a very intriguing element for me, that I've seen people around me, they had the potential, but because of certain cultural religious boundaries that we have in the country, uh, that potential in the females could not have been exploited. So that was the first thing that I wanted to explore.
Sure. I think on that point, then it'd be good to just get a little bit more of an understanding. I'm not too familiar with these kind of components, but what are the gender disparities that are persistent within Pakistan? Some of these cultural norms that you know potentially people aren't necessarily aware of.
So I think to be honest, we've come a long way in Pakistan. Traditionally, obviously, being a Muslim country and being from a specific part of the world, where South Asia, it has traditionally been a male-dominated. Even India is a much larger economy than Pakistan, and they're much more developed. But traditionally it's the male who get to make decisions within the home. That has been the case for several years. As I said, we've come a long way, but if I go back to my first point, that there is so much disparity in the regions across the country, that in urban cities we now have we now see equality where both the male and female member of the household are working, they contribute economically, they develop their own homes, they earn livelihood, they contribute, they collaborate with each other. All of that is happening, which is a very positive thing, to be honest. But as soon as we move to the rural areas, then those traditional patriarchal concepts kind of things, we see them very often, and that is partly because of lack of education, but also because of certain religious beliefs where we feel that women should stay at home and the men should go and do the earning part. and they should bring livelihoods and they should be responsible for feeding their families. That concept has always been there, and that is more prevalent in the rural areas. Um, so that kind of gender disparity does exist and is quite visible in all, even in the most developed province of Punjab. If you go to the rural areas, you'll see this kind of disparity where you know it's male dominated, and then you have to properly seek permission from the men of the house that can the females go out, earn something, and all of those things. But the point is that when all of these beliefs, all of these religious and cultural beliefs kind of clashed with the economic realities of the country, that one person's earning is not enough to run your house. So that is the turning that in my opinion was the turning point for Pakistan, where even in the rural households, that understanding and awareness developed that yes, given the economic realities, given what's happening in the world out there, especially after COVID, to be honest, men were sitting at home. Even the people who the construction workers or any other low skilled or medium skilled job that you may call, those people were sitting at home. So what do we do now? How do we earn things? How do we feed our children? So that is when those you know traditional boundaries or disparities between male and female members of the household began to slightly change. And that is the point when most of the organizations, including the organization responsible for the Sujaan project, approached those households that if you have the potential, if you have the idea or spark, we may try to assist you in that.
Interesting. So there was this acknowledgement that came about through the country that ultimately a two-person household, a two working people household is essentially what's required to run most households in the country. You can't get by on a single earning income in Pakistan anymore. To be honest, that's kind of a truth that seems to be becoming more and more apparent even across a lot of developed
Yes.
countries anyway, right?
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So there was almost an acknowledgement of that, which then allowed culturally for the Sujaan project to come in and maybe take advantage some of that acknowledgement to try and encourage some enterprise,
Mm.
facilitate some of it, particularly within women and ethnic minorities within the region, it sounds like.
Yes. Yes. But this is not without challenges, Max. Um, to be able, I mean, for me, if I'm part of an organization, for me to go out there in a community which has held its traditional beliefs for several years, asking them to allow their women to come out, do their business, and we are able to support them, that has not been an easy journey for these people. During the interviews they told me that majority of the times they were told off, majority of the times people were not ready to listen to them, that despite facing all these poverty related challenges, we will be able to manage, but we will not allow females to come out and do their business. So that is when they came up with the idea of getting a community buy-in. That is that they thought that rather than asking these potential female entrepreneurs to come out to a city like Hyderabad or Mirpur or Karachi, why not we establish some small centers within their village or their town. And it's going to be a small center. It will be looked after by one of the respected male members of that community, so that every household gets to trust that particular person. Whenever females come to that center, that elderly figure is there in that center, monitoring them, looking at them, ensuring that females are secure. I mean, one of the major reasons for this for this reservation from the male community was security of the female. That how can we trust somebody who's coming from Karachi or from any other part of the country, that are you only coming to support our female members? Is there any malafide intention? Is there something else? Because of course, these are some of the things that do happen in Pakistan. We can't take our eyes away from the crimes and everything that is happening across the world and across and Pakistan is no different from that. So there was some kind of skepticism around that. But then this idea was also something that fascinated me, that okay, with every problem then you come up with a unique solution, that why not we take people from their households as security guards, as people of administrators in that particular center, where those females can come, meet the trainers, uh, get some kind of skill development training, and then go back to their homes and then try to develop some kind of products and then bring them in. So that is how all of it started. And gradually they got that community buy-in for that particular region, where the numbers of female attending those centers increased from 5 to 10, and now more than 50 female entrepreneurs attend that center, meet the trainers, get those skill development trainings, share their products with them so that they can take them back to the cities and showcase them in exhibitions, etc. So it was a rough start, but at the end of the day, it worked out for them.
Yeah, that's interesting because that's a real jump in participation rates from 2 5 all the way up to 50 on the 10x in some of these instances, and predominantly that was just driven by having I wouldn't say male focus, but male involved, or at least community involved process where they could at least work with them, get some male leader buy-in from the local communities, and that allowed to them to disperse some of their concerns, worries, and actually allow for this more uptake in in entrepreneurial activities for the women in this region, by the sounds of it.
When one of my co-researchers, Dr. Summer, who works at the University of Derby, she visited the one of the centers in Mirpur Khās. So she observed, and her observation was later on confirmed by some of the participants, that the challenges are multidimensional. The first challenge was to get the buy-in from the male of their household, that can we go out and can we go to these centers and can we then learn something and to build our product or something like that. The second element was that when they started to sell their product, the community was not very responsive, to be honest. For example, one of the initiatives which these female entrepreneurs shared with us was a Sujaan cafe. So they established a all female run cafeteria on the roadside of the national highway, where they would sell tea, coffee, etc. to the truck drivers who transport goods from the port city of Karachi to other parts of the country. And they said that when those truck drivers used to stop at this cafeteria and saw all females managing that, the sales decreased.
Interesting.
The they were skeptic. They were not very happy with that in this part of the in this part of Pakistan, they do expect females to stay behind home. They expect females to be at home. So why is this all a female run cafeteria? And why and if we can find another one 2 miles away which is run by a male,
Yeah.
why don't we go there? So that were some of the setbacks that these entrepreneurs did face, and that's sad at times.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting as well because it's by the nature of the project and kind of what we just discussed, you're getting buy-in from the local community and the
Yeah.
local people involved. But it's interesting in that example where you bring up this cafe where the predominant business is people essentially being quite transitory through the area. And actually, in a way, because you haven't been able to get the buy-in of all the people, I guess, across the country, maybe there is a little bit more friction
Yes.
to some of those
Yes.
activities then potentially.
Yes, I agree. So I mean, community wise, they were going fine, but then as you rightly pointed out, that not everybody in the country, and especially from sectors where like truck drivers and all of those elements, where obviously the education levels are not that much, for them seeing a female doing a business, coming out there, all of those things, that was surprising for them, and probably that was one of the reasons that they could not get so much of publicity
Yeah.
for the work that these ladies were doing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I almost wonder if there, I mean, this is just me being hypothetical here, but I'm almost wondering whether there was some sort of media or branding thing across the country, if they put some resources behind it where, um, the Sujaan Project like had some branding in regards to like, okay, this is what we do. We're getting buy-in from local male figures and leaders, and it had a little bit more branding across the country. Perhaps like more local projects, people would be more,
Mm.
this is a Sujaan cafe or something. So when they take, oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool, yes, this is run by women, but I know the
Mm.
Sujaan brand, and as a result, I'm more amenable to be use their services. I'm wondering maybe if that's something that could potentially sort of help ameliorate that situation. Although I imagine a lot of resourcing behind it as well would be quite needed. In that specific example with the cafe, were they able to, ensure the business was profitable in the end and turn it over?
Uh, I'll just quickly add one thing on the previous comment that you made. This was again one of the reasons why we opted to develop a case study around Sujan, because we thought that media publicity was not there. We thought
Ah,
that
okay.
awareness around that initiative was not there. So that probably, I think this is one of the only case study or a research or whatever you can call it around Sujan initiative. We've seen some marketing pamphlets being published, but nobody knows about this initiative
Hmm.
that much. Even in the country, people don't know about it. So when I tell them about it, they try to look for a website or a social media page or something like that, and they are unable to find it. And so that was one of the reasons where we wanted to advertise this in a way that something good is happening. Can we all come and support it? Can we all come and kind of.
Yeah. So anecdotally, then, when you talk to people from various regions, doesn't have to be just in the Sindh region. Are they generally quite in proponent of it, even if they do have some of these more traditional values regarding women and the gender disparities? Are they quite pro the scheme? And if they are, is it literally just a case of, as you mentioned, if you did have a little bit better branding and awareness around this stuff, you think you would get a lot more buy-in?
Yes. I mean, a general consensus is that yes, females should come forward if they are taking certain kind of initiatives. They should be encouraged. But again, I would say that because Pakistan is so different demographically in terms of all the four provinces, especially the northern province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and even in Balochistan, where uh, uh, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is quite developed in the sense that it is much better than Balochistan, but we have a lot of traditional mindset prevalent in those two particular provinces. But when you talk to somebody in Punjab, they are very supportive of such initiatives. They encourage, because primarily because this is being done at a very large scale in Punjab. The right from the top level government officials, the current chief minister of Punjab, who's herself a very a modern female, and who encourages all of these initiatives. So when you talk to people in Punjab, they're very supportive. When you start coming to Sindh region and when you start talking to people in Sindh, they have their reservations. Even when the Sujan people were trying to get that community buy-in, some of the households only agreed that okay, our ladies will come to the centers, but there will be no photography, there will be no publicity, there will be, they will not show their faces or something like that. So, and they will not go out to Karachi or other places, or to attend exhibition or something. Whatever you want to do, you can do it within the town, within the village boundaries. So in a way, there were multiple layers of challenges because of which these initiatives did not get the publicity they deserve, to be honest. In Punjab, we regularly have exhibitions where female entrepreneurs from rural areas of Punjab come there, sell their products directly to the customers, get that training of customer facing and customer engaging with the customers. But when it comes to Sindh, then there are other struggles as well, which uh, are part and parcel of that particular region. And when you were asking about the Sujan cafe being profitable, So when that initiative started and when it was kind of they established it, Pakistan witnessed one of the worst floods in 2023-24 because of the climate change and all of those things, where the northern glaciers are now melting, and it was one of the worst floods in the history of the country. And unfortunately, one of the most impacted regions was this Mirpur Khas region, where these centers and these cafes, some of them were destroyed, the road networks were broken, and all of those things happened, where they had to re-establish themselves. And then, uh, they, I mean, I wouldn't say they're earning profits, but they've shown some kind of resilience, that even after those floods and even after COVID and even after all of those things which were beyond their control, they've tried to re-establish themselves, and they've tried to diversify certain things, that in their cafeteria, if somebody doesn't want to drink a tea from, served by a female, then they can try and buy some pickles, they can try and buy some olives, they can try to buy some dates, they can try to buy some bangles, they can try to buy some oils that are homemade oils or something like that. So the good part about it is that they're trying to diversify their products as we move, so they're not disheartened by what's happening in the society or otherwise, natural calamities that have taken place. uh, they are kind of um, trying to come up with different ideas. One thing, Max, I would like to mention here is that one I think I could not mention when I was talking about Sindh is that Sindh is one of the provinces in Pakistan where we still have that feudal mindset. I don't know if I can explain it to the people, that it's more like that this was one of the regions where different feudals and different regional leaders existed at the time of partition. They basically controlled the land, and majority of the people used to work for them. Like they were farmers, and they were like people who would work on the lands of that feudal. So apart from providing that economic benefit, that feudal suddenly became the decision maker of their households as well. So anything that had to take place in that particular region had to be agreed upon by that particular feudal. That reduced to some extent over the years, but in some regions, especially this Mirpur Khas region, those feudal mindsets still exist. So one of the participants did tell me in the interview that, people not responding to our cafeteria was that a XYZ feudal uh, communicated it to the community that you're not allowed to go to that cafeteria, you shouldn't go to that cafeteria, because these people haven't taken permission from me to operate all of these kind of things. Although those feudals don't own the land on which these people now live, or
And
they
it's perfectly
operate, or
legal
they
to operate, yeah.
it's perfectly legal to operate any kind of business, but that mindset is still there, that we have been here from generations, and these people had to come to us to first seek permission, that whether they want to cooperate with Sujaan people or not, or whether they want people to come out, come from other cities. And then adjacent impact of this is that because these feudals control that region, they or their relatives are usually the people who get elected to the parliament. They become ministers, they occupy government roles as well. So if they are not happy with you, then they can apply government pressure to destabilize you, or not to provide you with facilities. If a road leading to a Sujan cafe is broken or destroyed during the floods, they would make sure that is not you know
Repaired,
repaired
sorted, yeah.
on time. Exactly. So there are multiple things which people did share with me, that these female entrepreneurs shared with me, that there are multiple challenges. So there are, I mean, they were happy that they got the opportunity to come out from their homes and showcase their talents, showcase their potentials. But then these societal implications do still exist in one way or the other.
Yeah, that is interesting because because it's not any legal framework that allows them to do this, I guess, the influence
Yeah.
from getting elected officials and stuff
Hmm.
aside.
Hmm.
I'm curious because it seems to just be like an influence thing, at least from what I'm hearing. These feudals seem to do have a lot of influence over the local people
Yes.
in terms of where they spend their money, what they do. Even in regards to get elected, right? I mean, ultimately, I would assume that you would elect your local officials. That's still
Yeah.
individuals choosing, but they still seem to have a lot of influence over the general population to make sure that their family members, their associates, are elected into those positions.
Hmm.
Why?
Hmm.
I mean, maybe you don't have an answer for this, obviously, because it's kind of getting more into the political space. But why do you think they still have such an influence over these areas, particularly since it's not legal for them to have such influence anymore in terms of the
Uh,
feudalist nature?
I think it's, I mean, solely speaking from my own observation, Max, I think it's because of the male dominance in the households, because those male representatives or men in the house, they kind of try to avoid conflict with that particular feudal or any kind of influential person in that
Right.
region. And when they come asking for votes, so in Pakistan, it's more like it's not more like in rural areas specifically, not in the cities. In the rural areas, it's more like a village gets to decide unanimously for which candidate they're going to vote, and anybody who disagrees with that, then they are termed as an outsider. To be honest, and then
Interesting.
so that's so they call upon those elders of that village where that influential person might uh, you know try to influence them. Then they come back to their village, they advise all of the families living over there that we as a village have decided to vote in favor of XYZ, and then the entire village gets to decide on that. So that does happen in lots of areas. Again, I'm not generalizing it, but in some of the regions of the of Pakistan, this still happens. And another interesting fact which was pointed out by some of the international agencies in some of the previous, god knows, 10-15 years old elections, and they always point it out, to be honest, is that uh, females are not female voting ratio is very low in some regions of Pakistan. In some areas, there have been cases where zero female vote was casted in the entire election process. So that is also true. That is also another fact which
And women
happens
have
in the
full
country.
voting capabilities and rights comparisons to
They
men.
have full voting capabilities.
They're just not turning out.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
probably due
yeah.
to influence from their families and networks, I'm imagining.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So even if somebody's getting, let's say, 1,000 votes for all from the male members, they will still get elected to the parliament. They don't require female votes in order to, you know, get into that region. So, but coming back to the discussion, so this all of this does have an impact on how sustainable these initiatives are, because that is one of the things that we tried to discuss in this case study, was that in Sindh, in Pakistan, when we tried to explore some other organizations as well, there have been initiatives that only lasted for a couple of years. They were not sustainable, and in majority of those cases the reason was that the community buy-in was not there, the influence of some powerful people was not there. They were not happy with what's going on in certain areas. So that was one of our main concern that we wanted to highlight, that can we ensure the sustainability of such initiatives? Can we connect these small organizations with larger organizations operating in the cities, where they can establish a network and then ensure that despite all of these factors, can we develop a business model where all of these factors, I mean, I can't say we can eliminate the impact of these factors, but at least try to minimize them to some extent. We can try to sit in a civilized manner with some of these influentials and talk about the reservations, that what is the reservation. Was it only just a permission that these people had to secure from you, or is that something else? Is there any fear that if
Mm.
a female comes out and develops her own business, earns her own livelihood, then that so-called authority of the male figure in the household, community, region, that gets undermined to some extent. So it kind of connects to a larger issue that we have in the country.
Yeah, it seems like a really unique uh, problem that it has to be addressed by the progress. So yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that develops over time as well. I'd like to just go back to the actual initiative a little briefly because we kind of glossed this over a little bit earlier. But could you outline for me the types of mechanisms the initiative actually implements to allow some of these things, to occur? We've talked a bit about the cafe there. I think in the research you mentioned about financing a lot of the time in terms of the mechanisms. How is the initiative allowing some of these female-led or minority-based initiatives to occur? Is it through financing? Is it through skills structures and education? Is it through some of this coordination stuff we're talking about, getting buy-in from local communities? What are the mechanisms by which they're providing support?
So the majority focus of this initiative is on capacity building, on skill development,
Right.
uh, through the center that they have established in Mirpur Khās region. What they try to do is they bring in some volunteers from established cities and sectors, where they come in, try to provide some kind of training to these ladies depending upon their interest. For example, when we were there, there was a training program going on for the makeup artists. Basically, anybody who was interested in the makeup, or beauticians want to become beauticians, then they had some people come over from Hyderabad city, come and train these ladies so that they can try and establish their own, let's say, beauty salons in their villages or towns or whatever. So the ultimate focus was on capacity building, and if they then come up with their own products or services that they would like to offer, can can we then connect them with some organizations who are already working in the sector, like in some larger cities. So that was one of the area where Sujan was struggling, because they wanted to connect these people to the government initiatives, where they provide loans and finances and all of those kind of things to small and medium entrepreneurs. However, the registration process was very complex, and it required some kind of uh, you know um, I mean, there were lots of formalities associated with that process. So at the time when we were doing this research, they were trying to manage those aspects, because they clearly shared that now we've set up the base where these ladies can go back to their home, develop 5 or 10 products at their home, but that's the maximum capacity. They need machinery, they need equipment, they need finances, and that is where we are struggling. If they
Hmm.
want to establish a beauty salon back in their village or town, they need some kind of finances, they need some kind
Capital,
of
yeah.
loans. Exactly, exactly. And that was the struggle. That is where the scale of that Sujan idea uh, hit its limit, that this is we need to establish connections with other organizations. As I mentioned in the start, there are some reputable organizations such as Kash Foundation or Al Khidmat Foundation. They have network all across the country. They are well connected with government offices. They know people. They know the processes. They know the systems. This was one of the handicaps for Sujan, that because it started off as a an idea between friends, and who were ready to volunteer their time for all of that. But at that point, and they were able to provide capacity building, but when it came to the actual aspects of running a business, then they are still facing, to be honest, challenges. And they wanted me to write about it, that if organizations, even international organizations, if they can see this, if they can see the potential, if they can see the diversity of products and services these females can offer while being in their vicinity and in their villages, then a little bit of finance can enable them to come up with uh, you know very innovative ideas, to be honest. And at a time in the world when we are surrounded by the organic products and organic, all those kind of things, which is fine, which is nice, but then here you go, there are people who are producing homemade pickles, oils, any kind of different foods, butter, milk products, etc. They just need a platform, they just need to scale up their products and services, which at the moment I'm aware, even until last year, this was a challenge for the organization, that uh, they were not able to guide them through those finance related
Yeah,
issues.
those facets of starting up an enterprise and a business, no, that makes a lot of sense. Well, we've talked about some of the limitations there, but I think I think we should maybe talk about some of the positives that have maybe come out of the scheme. So, like, what have been the effects of this scheme more broadly on the local region? What kind of effects has it had?
Uh, I would say the one of the biggest impact that I witnessed was that there is this gradual acceptance that if the female of the household wants to do something and they have the potential to do something, we need to let them do. For me, coming from Pakistan, looking at this region, studying this region for so many years, this was one of the most remarkable I would say achievement of this initiative, that the people behind this Sujaan idea, they were able to convince the male dominant households that please allow your females to do business. If they want to run a beauty parlor, if they want to run a salon, if they want to develop some products, try and support them. One of the female participants during the interview shared with us that she's very happy that she prepares those products and her husband now delivers them to larger cities. So she said that that is the kind of change, and she was happy that this is the kind of environment that her children are witnessing at home, that the mother is doing something and the father is supporting her partner in you know earning that livelihood in kind of. So that is, I think, one of the main positives out of these initiatives, and this is why I keep on emphasizing that we need to have more of these things. Why should we restrict ourselves to Mirpur Khās? It means that we can share these success stories to some extent, with limited success, of course, with other regions in Sindh, that this is what your neighboring town is doing, this is what your neighboring village is doing. Come up with different ideas, support your houses, because of course at the end of the day, if we take a very high level look at all of these initiatives, it's going to support the country, it's going to support the region at the end. But obviously we have to take those first steps. And for me, as I said, the good part about all of this is that you know despite the influences and despite the political pressures and everything, the households are gradually witnessing a change. And I think this is how it all started in Punjab. If you go back 20 years ago, Punjab was also a very traditional kind of a province with similar disparities as Sindh. But gradually things changed, things evolved, and now we see a Punjab which is very developed, where we see females coming out, we see females driving cars, we see females running offices, having their own businesses, uh, being the board members of large organizations. So why not in Sindh? Why can't we replicate this in rural areas? And I think Sujan has partially managed to create that awareness in one region, but that
Yeah,
needs to be replicated in other regions as well.
got you. Yeah, Ahmad, this has been fantastic. I think just to get your final thoughts, what's the next step in this process for the initiative? I mean, we talked some a bit about creating more links with some other organizations to provide some of that capital financing that would maybe help expand some of these organizations. But then maybe also in terms of a research component, is there any other research you would like to see conducted in the future that could help build upon the findings that you were looking at here?
So the first part of your question is what we are doing practically is that we are in touch with some of the households where we've got complete buy-in. That is, both the male and female members are completely supportive of this idea. We are trying to connect them with larger organizations in Punjab and even in Karachi, and trying to establish that connection where they can then, they bring in their ideas, and then they are in the process of getting linked with financial institutions and microfinance banks who can then support them and help them establish their businesses. So it's not much, but at least, for example, we are at the moment we are in contact with 8 families who are in the process of getting linked with some larger organizations and trying to establish their products and their businesses. So that is in terms of the practical part, as I normally call it, the action research, that we are trying to utilize our findings to be able to support them and connect them. So that is one thing that we are doing at the moment. I'll be visiting Pakistan soon, and we will be looking at the progress of what's being done, because while sitting here, I can even assist them fill up those forms and prepare those application forms and guide them on, what kind of documentation you need to attach in order to secure a loan and all those things. So we are doing that practically. In terms of research, we are taking forward this case study where we are now actually working on some of the primary data and some of the interviews that we conducted. And basically, at the moment, it's a phased approach. So what we are trying to do is we're trying to highlight the issues first, so that we can get some readers' attention that, here we have potential entrepreneurs, but they require assistance, they require some kind of guidance, they require financial support, they require some things. So we are trying to develop a policy paper, if you may call it, like something around that, which we then plan to send on to some government officials and some government offices in Sindh region and in Punjab as well. It doesn't matter. I mean, I've seen people being very supportive of our ideas, that if we can contribute to it, if we can do something for it, but we need facts and figures, we need data. We don't know about this program. So through our research, we are trying to develop that awareness and suggest some policy guidelines. Obviously, it's for the organizations to develop their policies, but we can suggest them something that, you can establish some networks, communities of practice, or something different.
Yeah, something to look forward to in the future. Ahmad, thank you very much for your time. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Max. Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for providing the opportunity.